Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Radio. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
And it's 3 o'clock on the dot. Welcome inside the SMC studios here at Newhouse in Syracuse University. Glad you could join us for Newhouse Afternoon, episode 2 for our crew here. Joseph Duffy joined alongside Hunter Caparelli. Hunter, how you doing?
Joe, I'm doing great. Excited to be back. Thought we had a fantastic first episode last week. I talked a lot about men's and women's hoops, previewed the Super Bowl. A lot happened over the past weekend. I'm excited to get into it.
A lot of great sports this past weekend. The Olympics are officially underway. The Winter Olympics in Milan. Saw a great Duke-UNC matchup rivalry game. Last night had a great Arizona-Kansas game in Lawrence at the Fog. The Super Bowl just happened. We'll talk about that as well. But what a great weekend of sports.
What a great weekend. College basketball has completely stepped in the forefront of sports fans' viewership with football officially over. Me, myself, I was actually able to travel down to North Carolina to see the Duke-UNC game. Like we mentioned last week, me and Joe were the only two students that does Newhouse Afternoon that are graduate students. So if you're a Monday to Friday, 3 to 4 viewer, you'll most usually be hearing undergrad students, but when you tune in on Tuesdays, you're going to hear the two graduate students who Joe went to UT, Texas Austin, and myself went to UNC Chapel Hill for undergrad. So I got to travel down and watch my Tar Heels defeat the Blue Devils at the buzzer. I just want to get into it a little bit. Quick little story time. I get down to Chapel Hill late Friday night. The game comes on Saturday. Was not able to get into the arena. The price was a little steep on my part. I think it was $500 to just get into the nosebleeds. So we weren't able to get into the arena, but we were able to watch it at the infamous He's Not Here bar at Chapel Hill, the home of the Blue Cup. While at He's Not Here, the entire bar was completely packed with UNC fans, not a single Duke fan in sight. Even though the game didn't look like it was going the Heels' way, it only takes 0.4 seconds to win the game, and that's exactly what happened. The Heels came back, ended on a 9-0 run, and a buzzer beater from senior guard Seth Trimble capped off an amazing comeback win. 20,000 fans ended up storming Franklin Street. You could sort of think of that as Syracuse's Marshall Street, just a little longer, a little more, stores and shops going around.
2 court storms, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, 2 court storms happened on the court because fans thought it was already over. They put 0.4 seconds back on the clock, and then after the 0.4 went off, fans stormed again, ran the mile from the Dean Dome to Franklin Street, and it was a party all night. The reason I'm bringing up this story, Joe, is it had me thinking as a UNC fan, but then also, as we've been as grad students, we've really been able to, bring in the Syracuse fandom, watching the men's and women's basketball team, watching the football team, and just seeing all of the Carolina fans just celebrate all throughout the night after beating their longtime rival Duke. It got me thinking, why can't that be in Syracuse? I've heard of rivals here and there. I've heard Georgetown, while the Orange were in the Big East, was considered their longtime rivals. Since they've now transferred over to the ACC, I don't know if that rivalry is still as strong. It's there, but I would really hope to maybe see over the next few years Syracuse hopefully potentially bring back either a Georgetown rivalry or a rivalry with some other school, because you can't replicate that anywhere else. I know UNC Duke is recognized as one of the top rivalries in college basketball, but just seeing all of the fans in Chapel Hill just living and dying on every shot, you're not really seeing that with Syracuse right now. Obviously, success has a little bit to do with it, but I'm really just hoping, whether it's this year or the next few years, that the men's basketball team in particular could really bring back that fandom, completely selling out the JMA Wireless Dome, potentially getting some big rivalry wins and celebrating throughout the night here in the Cuse.
I mean, they were down 10+ in that game in Chapel Hill, and not a single fan left. I mean, there was still a great amount of buy-in and total belief, even in that rivalry game, a game that seems to always deliver.
Always.
I mean, top 5 in American sports, I'd have to think, because it's always going to be a competitive contest. And I have to agree with you. Like, why not? Why can't Syracuse get back to that? I do think that they can be back to that in the future, like you saw in those old Big East days. But, this place used to pack up, the JMA Wireless Dome, formerly the Carrier Dome. It's a unique spot that Syracuse has in basketball, being in this massive facility that can hold 30,000 for men's basketball. It feels like every game back then was a Final Four matchup in a way.
I've seen pictures of a sold-out, what used to be Carrier Dome.
Yeah.
I don't know why that can't still be today. Obviously, again, success has something to do with it. You haven't made the tournament since 2021. That's going to play a part in fans maybe wanting to come or not come to the JMA Wireless Dome. I get that, but things haven't been so sunny in Chapel Hill either. They barely made the tournament last year. They missed the tournament 3 years ago. And yet, when rivalry day comes, like I mentioned, $500 just to get into the arena, completely sold out. You win the game, the town parties throughout the night. I would really love to see that energy, that fandom, be replicated here in the Cuse.
Well, the big narrative surrounding North Carolina this year seems to be the odd year Hubert Davis 2025 season. He seems to do good in this odd year.
Every other year.
And, every other year they're going to be really good again to close out this ACC schedule. We'll dive into Syracuse men's basketball right now, who just lost in Charlottesville against number 18 Virginia, 72-59. It was a more competitive game for sure. They trailed only by 3 at half, much better than last week's performance. But the big topic this past weekend was Kyan Anthony not even touching the court, and it went viral.
I was shocked. I know Kyan hasn't been playing as great the past few weeks. I think his plus-minus numbers are a little down, but just the fact that he's a high-end 4-star, he's obviously a huge name because of who his dad is. The fact that he wasn't even able to touch the court added on to the fact that fellow freshman Sadiq White only played 2 minutes. In a game where you've already lost 6 of your last 7, why not turn to your talented freshman who can maybe provide a spark off the bench, whether it's offensively or defensively? Virginia, like Coach Autry mentioned, was a physical team, one of the best offenses, one of the best defenses in the country. But why can't you turn to some of your talented freshmen to maybe get in, get a spark, get some buckets? I just don't understand why it was now that Coach Autry has decided to just completely fold on Kyan and Sadiq White.
I mean, it was a 6-point game with 2:17 left in the second half. The Cuse was very much in this game. They were competing, and we were talking about it last week. They were showing some fight. We want them to show more fight in this closing stages of the ACC
playing like
schedule.
There's nothing to lose.
Exactly. They were doing that in this game. Credit to them and Coach Autry. He was completely justified. He was saying that that he really does not want to turn around from what he did. And benching Kyan Anthony, we saw what Carmelo Anthony, Kyan's father, said on social media last week.
Social media.
Some people were saying that was possibly, the reason why, but there's no evidence of that. Yeah. But Coach Autry was saying basically that, he agrees with what he did. He has not turned back on it. He thought it was a bad matchup for Kyan Anthony, and they lose by just a few points. Of course, the 13-point deficit came a little bit late with the foul game, but this team was competing. They showed heart. Who knows if Kyan Anthony could have made the difference?
I don't think that Carmelo's vocality on social media played a part in his benching. I know some fans have speculated about that. I think this was strictly a coach's decision where Coach Autry didn't believe that Kyan would have an impact on winning in this game. I'm not sure why. I know a lot of reporters asked him after the game. He, again, mentioned he thought Virginia was a physical team that maybe would have physicality. Kai and Anthony, I'm not sure about that. They had just played UNC a week ago. Kyan had played 60 minutes, scored 10 points. I don't see Virginia as more of a physical team than North Carolina. So
Exactly.
I'm not sure why this was the exact game that Coach Autry decided to play a combined 2 minutes between Sadiq White and Kyan Anthony. But like you mentioned, they were in this game up until the last 2 minutes. Virginia's top scorer, Tyster Ritter, he only ended with 9 points. Syracuse was able to, they had a great defensive game. If they had just maybe got a couple more buckets later in that second half, who knows what's going to happen.
Joseph Duffy and Hunter Caparelli here on Newhouse Afternoon on the Tuesday show. It's 3:09. Let's talk about Syracuse's opponents coming up this week.
Totally.
Tomorrow they face a really solid Cal team, 17-7 overall in the year, 5-6 in the ACC. Has won 4 of its last 6 games, and they have a really good player in Day Ames, who's their leading scorer with 17 points a game coming to the Dome.
Day's really good. I remember watching the Cal UNC game from a few weeks ago. He lit up the Tar Heels in California. Cal actually won that game. A projected 13 seed right now in bracketology. I wouldn't be surprised if the betting line, if Cal's the projected favorite for this game tomorrow night. But for Syracuse, this is a must-win. You've lost, 6 of your last 7 of your last 8 games. You're really trying to get back in the win column, and there's no better chance than tomorrow night. A midweek game. You have Cal coming from the West Coast, so maybe a time change factor there. I don't know what the exact numbers are with West Coast teams playing on the East Coast, but I'm sure it's not great. So prime opportunity for Coach Autry and the rest of the Orange to get back in the win column.
When I talked to Sharman Smith, the Cal women's basketball coach, a few weeks ago, she's not into all the excuses of travel, but it is a real factor. You have to think, this is what the ACC is now. You have a team on the West Coast playing in the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's just kind of insane how regionality doesn't really matter in a lot of these conferences today. But this is a team in Cal. I don't know how Syracuse's defense is going to really fare against them, especially Day Ames. You were talking off camera before the show. You could see him scoring 30 points somehow in this game.
I can. He's really good. He could play, make, score off the dribble. I think Syracuse is going to want to show a couple defensive looks. We mentioned last week they used that 3-2 zone a little bit against UNC. You can maybe see that if they just want to throw him off. But this is a strong Cal team that's won 4 of their last 6. Like I mentioned, they're currently in the field right now for March Madness, whereas Syracuse is on the way out looking in. I think they're really going to have to bring the energy tomorrow night. I could see fans coming in and hopefully being loud, being rambunctious in a positive way, hopefully, towards Syracuse trying to get a win. But this is a huge opportunity for Coach Autry and the rest of the Orange.
Well, this lineup for Cal and the Golden Bears consists of Chris Bell, a Syracuse transfer, also Justin Pippen, the son of NBA Hall of Famer, or Basketball Hall of Famer, rather, Scottie Pippen, who averages 15.2 points a game, and also John Camden, who averages about 14 points a game. Let's transition to Syracuse women's basketball. It was another heartbreaking thump loss that they had to go against number 6 Louisville, the top defense in the ACC. It was a beatdown that first quarter, and credit to Coach Felicia Leggett-Jack and her squad for fighting back, but it was a 28-6 deficit. That'd be the story of this game in the Dome a few days ago.
Coach Jack was asked after the game how she could get her program onto the level of the likes of a Louisville, who they just lost to on Sunday, a Duke, a North Carolina. She mentioned the fact that NIL, transfer portal, definitely has something to do with it, but it's also getting those girls, getting them here, and just developing them year over year. This is the best start Coach Jack has had with the Orange. You now see that's the Louisville, they're 6th in the country. That's where you want to get to. They've really been able to build over the past few years, but that's the ceiling. At least they know now that's where they will have to get, and they know what to do to work on to get to that level.
We've talked about if this Syracuse team is for real. They've now lost to Virginia Tech at home, also blown out Louisville at home. They lost to Duke on the road, and also an overtime loss against North Carolina just a few days ago. But this is an Orange team that shot 39% from the field, and that's the defense that you see with this Cardinals squad coming into the Dome. Laura Ziegler of the Cardinals had 22 points. She led Louisville scorers, 10 of 13 from the field, 2 of 3 from downtown.
Yeah, they had 4 players getting to double figures. Syracuse was able to get a little bit of offensive production, they got 22 points from Dominique Darius, only 13 from Uche Ezoje. And
Darius was on fire. She was on fire.
Yeah, she was on fire. But quiet night from Layla Filia, only had 5 points. She's been streaky throughout ACC conference play. She scored 38 points, a career high a few weeks ago. So they're hoping to get more consistent offense from her. But defense has really been the calling card of this Syracuse women's basketball team. If you give up 84 points to an ACC opponent, it's going to be tough to win.
Well, they have an opportunity to bounce back against Pitt later on. This is a Pitt team that is the second worst in the ACC. We saw this team play Boston College about last week. Pitt's 8-17, 1-11 in ACC contests, 16th in the conference. They've lost 8 in a row, haven't won since January 4th. It's been well over a month, and that last win they had was against Boston College.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it, Joe, but assuming it's going to end up being 9 in a row, this is a great game for Coach Jack and the rest of the program to get back into the win column after a 19-point loss. If they could get back in the win column, use this win to momentum size and push them through the rest of ACC play going into the tournament, I don't see why not. They can't be a team to shock the rest of the tournament field and potentially win the ACC tournament.
Pitt just lost against Sharman Smith's Cal Golden Bears by 15. They'll bring in Teresa Hagans and Michaela Johnson as the leading scorers. It's 3:15 on Newhouse afternoon. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about Super Bowl 60 and the oh-so-politicized halftime show with the great Bad Bunny, who is the most popular artist in the world right now. We'll be right back on Newhouse Afternoon.
We're still streaming live on YouTube and Twitch.
Yes, we are. Not seeing any comments. Would love to answer questions for anybody who has something.
My guess is tomorrow night will be close. I won't make a prediction because I think it can go either way.
Yeah.
But this is a must-win for the Orange.
It'd be awesome. It'd be awesome for the city.
For the city.
It's been a brutal winter, man. People are trying to watch some good wins.
Come on. It's been the coldest winter in the last 50 years. You want something to cheer up your day. Why not it be a men's basketball win on a Wednesday night?
What are the odds we get here when it's basically like a frozen tundra, worse than it's ever been? Nuts. I never thought I would I told someone this, I never thought I would be so grateful to have 30 or 40 degree weather. It almost feels like summer out here. It feels like summer.
When I was down in Chapel Hill, it was high 30s, and it literally felt like it was 70 degrees just because of the difference between the negative 20 feel here and the 40 degrees in North Carolina. It was insane.
I used to feel like I was dying when it would get, in that time of year for Texas in the winter. I used to hate 35, 40. I'm grateful for it now. It's awesome. It's awesome.
It's always the wind. I think a lot of people who live in Syracuse can agree. It's the wind that always makes it feel a lot colder than it really is.
Especially Saturday. I looked at my my weather app, and sometimes people don't like Apple weather. I can get that, but it was like minus 25 at like 9 a.m. wind chill. Feels like at 10 a.m. And I thought my phone was like actually glitching. I thought like there's no way. There is no way it is a minus 25. And lo and behold, it really just stayed below zero pretty much that whole day. It's been like that for the past 5
You go outside that day?
I went to get my food, and I went right back in. I was moving fast.
It's just like at that point, you start to lose feeling in your fingers and your toes. It's just like misery.
Yeah, that's why I got my gloves, so I don't feel a thing. I was hustling to get my food, man. Went to Franco's Pizzeria in Delhi.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Hopefully, I'm hoping, I don't want to jinx it, hopefully the next few weeks, let's keep it at that 30, high 20 degree range. I could do the high 20s, low 30s.
I mean, I could cry seeing this forecast this week. I mean, it looks like how it did really in November, early December. It's 35 right now. Feels like 29 in Syracuse.
It's fine by me. I could do that.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
I put on my Timbs, my big puffer jacket. I could do high 20s.
Let's keep it there, Syracuse, please.
Please, we don't want negative 25 degrees ever again.
Yeah, my goodness. So next segment, we'll talk about Super Bowl 60, the review, for about a good, let's do 5 to 7 minutes. Nice storylines in the game, and halftime to close it out, and we'll try to be done with that by like 3:30, 3:32-ish.
Tough one for Drake. Tough game for Drake. I think the shoulder injury was more, like, it was more than what they revealed.
Ugh. Hopefully not.
He said post-game that he got an injection, like a pain-killing injection. They're saying he's not going to get surgery, but...
I'm glad Smith and Jigba finished the game. I was so worried about that guy. You don't want to go out in the Super Bowl like that.
Yeah. Offensive Player of the Year. It was very reminiscent of, at least until the fourth quarter, of that Patriots-Rams Super Bowl. Very reminiscent.
Super Bowl.
Jason Myers could have won Super Bowl MVP.
What was it, 5 field goals?
It was very possible.
Oh, man.
There was a point where he was, I think, the second or third favorite to win the Super Bowl MVP.
I mean, what a run that guy was. All right. Chula Vista, California. Jason Myers, Marist College.
Should the Seahawks be favored to win it all next year? Back to back?
I don't see why not. It makes me sick, man.
Yeah.
I just want to see my Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
I think they have a few guys on the defensive side who are set to hit free agency, but if they can bring them back. Why not them?
And we welcome you back to Newhouse Afternoon. Joseph Duffy joined alongside Hunter Caparelli. It's 3:20 on the dot. Welcome inside the SMC studios at the Newhouse School in Syracuse. We just had a Super Bowl, a big-time one, Super Bowl 60. Not really as entertaining. There wasn't as much hype it felt with this one, but the Seahawks won their second Lombardi trophy. Sam Darnold and this amazing dark side defense, they like to call them, no longer the Legion of Boom, defeated the New England Patriots 29-13. And don't let that final score fool you. It really wasn't that much of a competition.
It wasn't, Joe. As a UNC grad, a huge Drake May fan, it was definitely disappointing to see how he performed in that game. 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions. We know going into the game he had a shoulder injury he had sustained from the Broncos AFC Championship win. Post-game, he said he had a painkiller injection to kind of numb the shoulder. I think that may have had more of an effect than people thought going into the game. And you saw he just had a bunch of missed throws that you don't normally see from him. He was the most efficient quarterback in the NFL this year. He had the highest QBR. There's a reason he was the runner-up to NFL MVP, just one first place vote shy of beating Matt Stafford out for the MVP. What we saw in that Super Bowl wasn't normal Drake May. You got to give the Seahawks defense credit, though. They were getting pressure on Drake by just rushing 4 linemen. They weren't even blitzing. They were getting to Drake. So definitely have to give the dark side some credit in that game. And like we mentioned in our last show, it was very reminiscent up until that fourth quarter of that Patriots-Rams Super Bowl from a few years ago. Just a defensive slugfest, a bunch of punts. The only difference was the Patriots were never really able to get an offensive game going, whereas the Seahawks had a bunch of drives where they were at least able to get in the red zone, near the red zone, and for a little bit it looked like Jason Myers was the potential Super Bowl MVP.
He basically called it for the first half, at least, how it's going to be a defensive slugfest, but this Seattle defense is just so salty. 3 turnovers they caused, even had a pick 6 on the young Drake May, who was getting terrorized, held the New England rush offense to 18 carries for 79 yards, and it would not happen without the great Mike McDonald in his second season at the helm in Seattle, winning the Lombardi Trophy. What a rise it is for this guy who has worked for both Harbaughs, previously was the DC in Baltimore, and before that was the DC for Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. He's been nothing but phenomenal, and somehow, this is a cool stat that I found, he is the first head coach to call plays defensively to win the Super Bowl.
Really?
Somehow the first coach who calls defensive plays for his defense to win the Super Bowl. 38 years old. He's unreal.
That's a crazy stat. I saw a story before the game that he was actually looking into getting into financial advising, I think, working at a KPMG as a just financial consultant. So I'm happy that he decided to stay in coaching. It's a great story. Second-year head coach. Between him, the Sam Darnold storyline, playing for 5 different teams, and now finally getting to that top of the mountain. I don't think, especially as a Jets fan, could have ever foreseen Sam Darnold winning a Super Bowl, but you put a good enough team around him, a guy who is able to make throws when he needs to. I don't think he played spectacularly last Sunday, but he did what he needed to do to get the job done.
I mean, I don't think anybody expected Sam Darnold to have the first Lombardi trophy from that crazy 2018 class that has Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Sam Darnold is the first QB from that class that has so many great names and MVPs to win the Super Bowl. The first team ever to not have a single turnover in the postseason, the Seattle Seahawks this year.
Really?
Unbelievable offense. Clint Kubiak, the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, who was their OC. Again, not the craziest offensive showing from this game, but when you have a solid defense like them, who's been number 1 in the league, it keeps you in the games. And I go back to those 2 times they played the Rams this year. At least not 2 times, but the one time they played them in Lumen, and then the NFC Championship. I mean, they had them on the ropes. That was a great offense for the Rams, but they hung on, and that 4th down play in the red zone has carried them all the way to being the Super Bowl trophy winning team.
A lot of people had mentioned that they actually thought the winner of the NFC Championship was going to win a Super Bowl.
Pretty much.
That comes to fruition. So you almost look at the NFC Championship as being, in some sort of terms, the Super Bowl. And the Rams had an opportunity to win that game. They had a 4th and goal from the 4-yard line to take the lead. They weren't able to convert, and the Seahawks got the job done in that game. They got the job done in the Super Bowl. Shout out to Kenneth Walker. He was a guy who was essentially splitting carries with Charbonnet throughout the year. Came in, had almost 200 yards. He was the first running back to win the Super Bowl MVP since Terrell Davis won it for the Broncos.
Wow.
1998. So got to give credit to Kenneth Walker. If it wasn't for his offensive production on the ground, the game could have been a lot closer.
I mean, if he didn't get that 1 carry called back, you're talking about 200 yards on the ground in the Super Bowl. He almost had that. No touchdowns, though, for Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP. 27 carries for 135 yards. Zach Charbonnet's injury really changed this rush attack in a way. It felt like Kenneth Walker was really rested. It had good legs for this playoff run because Charbonnet was really that red zone back. And so since Charbonnet's injury, you've seen more carries for George Halani, more catches from the backfield for George Halani, and then you've seen a more fresh Kenneth Walker down the stretch and how great he has been, especially in the Super Bowl. But Jason Myers, arguably, could have been the Super Bowl MVP, and some people at our Super Bowl party were a little bit upset. The Marist College alum, by the way. Shout out Poughkeepsie, New York.
I think if the game had gone how it was going through the first 3 quarters and it had ended with no touchdowns and Myers had maybe even gotten a 6th or 7th field goal, I think he had to have been the Super Bowl MVP. I can't see why not. But there was a point there in that 4th quarter where Jackson Smith and Jigma goes out with an ankle injury. Drake had just thrown a touchdown to Hollins in the corner of the end zone, another Tar Heel graduate. The Patriots had gotten the ball back and they were driving. A lot of fans were thinking, maybe, is this it? Is this that 28-3 sort of comeback? But right when things looked like things were going for the Patriots, Drake threw an interception right in the middle of the field to essentially put the nail in the coffin. And it's unfortunate for Patriots fans, but Drake is still super young. That team is still super young. I think Vrabel will have them in contention for many years to come.
Couldn't agree more. What a great season they've had after letting go of Gerard Mayo, a former Patriot who some thought he could have possibly been, a good successor for Bill Belichick. It didn't end up that way, but Mike Vrabel is right where he should be, and he has his quarterback.
His first year.
I mean, he's right where he should be, so I can't believe that this guy was in Cleveland just sitting there and nobody thought to hire him. It's just weird how that works, and people are paying for it now.
I think they maybe need one more wide receiver, one younger stud running back in the draft. I think if they put that together, maybe grow that offensive line a little bit. I know Will Campbell, the rookie O-lineman, had some struggles in that Super Bowl. I think that's what they potentially need to build to get back to the Super Bowl. But I don't see why the Seahawks shouldn't be the favorite to go back-to-back next year.
Cooper Kupp gets his second ring as well. Some people are hyping up his Hall of Fame case. I don't know if I agree too much with that. He's had a spectacular career, of course, being with the LA Rams and Sean McVay, and that transition from St. Louis to back to Southern California, and now getting another ring in Seattle. Before we go back to commercial, let's talk briefly about this halftime show. And I got to say, I am so glad we can move past this. As a nation, finally, we can move past this.
There was a lot of controversy going into it. I know there was a separate live stream Super Bowl halftime show. Personally, as a Bad Bunny fan, I enjoyed it. Again, I don't speak Spanish, so I didn't know much about what he was saying during the show. But between all of the dancing, the different the trees, the houses they had built, everything they had put into the show. Personally, I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people on social media said they enjoyed it. Some people not so much. But overall, I thought it was a success for the NFL.
From what you've seen, I mean, it seems like it appealed more to TV. I've heard some complaints from people in the stadiums that it wasn't necessarily for them, but it was a really good, well-shot, choreographed performance for Bad Bunny, the most popular artist in the world. And it goes back to our topic last week of why this is a smart decision for Roger Goodell and the NFL. They're trying to expand their league and become more global. And how do you do that? I bet you get the guy who won Album of the Year at the Grammys. And I don't care that he wasn't singing in English or rapping in English. He's the most popular artist in the world, and the music was a vibe.
Yeah, at the end of the performance, he was actually mentioning all the different countries across North and South America. He mentioned Chile, Peru.
About unity, for sure. Yeah.
So I think just from that ending, when he's mentioning all these different countries across the Americas, those are countries, those are fans that the NFL and Roger Goodell are trying to tap into to watch NFL games, regular season games, playoff games, the Super Bowl. So I think that was a proponent of why Roger Goodell wanted Bad Bunny to perform in the Super Bowl. And don't be surprised if in Super Bowls to come you continue to see more diverse artists performing.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. It was a great performance. I really liked it. It was really aesthetic performance too, aesthetically pleasing performance in California. I really enjoyed it. All around, really cool halftime in my opinion. I wish the game was better, but you can't always have it all for sure in the Super Bowl.
At least we had a good halftime show.
Yeah. So when we come back, we'll talk about men's and women's lacrosse and what a great Friday we have coming up. We'll bring in one of our guest analysts here on the show, and Robert Shabilsky will break down the great contest coming up this Friday at the JMA Wireless Dome. Hunter Caparelli, Joseph Duffy here on Newhouse Afternoon. We'll be right back.
Still live on Twitch and YouTube.
Robert Shabilsky. You wanna move your chair in?
Oh, I gotta get the chair. It's important.
We have a message from Ryan Mullen in the Twitch chat. The set alone for the Bad Bunny halftime performance was amazing. I agree, Ryan.
Gotta agree, Ryan. Ryan Mullen in the YouTube chat. Let's not kid ourselves to think Kine hasn't been a defensive liability all year. His scoring isn't jumping off the box score. Fair point. Fair point for sure. Ryan Mullen saying Dominique had too many turnovers. Sophie has soft passes over the top. That's where that were picked off for easy fast break points. Also, nobody was stopping number 0 in Laura Ziegler. Completely agree.
A really good team. They might be the best team in the ACC in women's basketball.
It does show their levels.
Duke's been hot, but Louisville might be the best team in the ACC. It's tough when you're a Syracuse program that's continuing to try to build and get to that point. You now see, like Coach Jack mentioned, that's where they want to get to. They've seen it. They've played against it. They have goals to attain now.
There's levels to this. There's levels to this in the college game. And, Syracuse, I think, is well on their way. They're a well-coached team. Yeah. Led by a coach who's really, paid her dues over the years, and back home in Felicia Leggett-Jack, I think they'll be well on their way, at least compared to last year. I mean, she had a really good first few years here for Syracuse, replacing a longtime coach, Coach Jack, that is. But, I think they're well on their way. She can recruit. She knows what to look for in the transfer portal, and it's paid off this year so far. So I think they're on their way for sure.
Before we come back from break on radio, Rob, do we have a preview of what we're about to talk about?
Talk about some men's women's lacrosse.
Anything exciting? Any noteworthy nuggets that we should be ready for?
Juicy, creamy
both number one teams in the country coming to the Dome on a Friday night. Doesn't get much better than that.
I mean, what a day. This has to be like an all-time day in Syracuse.
Has that ever happened before?
I've never heard of something like this in my life.
I can't imagine.
I mean, this is like an all-time day in SU athletics. Has to be.
We have two number one teams from different sports.
Mere hours.
Coming to play on the same day, yeah.
Oh, my
double header.
gosh. It's ridiculous.
I'm excited. UNC women's lacrosse has been a staple the past few years under head coach Jenny Levy. I've watched them win championship after championship, so this is definitely, for the women's team, an opportunity to cement themselves maybe this year, and for the men's team, we're potentially looking at a future championship.
I think we can end this around 3:48, so that when we get back, we'll just breeze through the rest of the stuff, like talk about men's basketball again, maybe if you want, or just extra topics that we had floated here, Hunter.
Yeah.
So I'll try to do 3:48, 3:49-ish. Actually, maybe 3:40.
Like go to break.
Because we have a long break.
Yeah, we'll go to break at like 3:46, 7.
Okay.
Around that. We'll go let Rob give us his insight and analysis.
You want to tell everybody where you're from, Robert Shabilsky?
You want me to do that now, or when we're back on radio?
We're gonna try. I'm gonna try to dive in. I think for like just to get right into the analysis.
Probably when we
love that. Radio, but. From Long Island, did my undergrad at Stony Brook. Now we're up here in the 315.
Oh.
So
Stony Brook alum.
Worked for the Stony Brook lacrosse.
Worked for the Stony Brook men's lacrosse team. Lacrosse enthusiast, love the game. First game ever in the Dome was in 2022 when the Terps came to the Dome. So pumped to see that matchup again on Friday here.
I know you also have a lacrosse company. You make
string and die lacrosse sticks on Instagram at Wizard String. So
shout out.
There we go.
Shout out. Ooh, it's gonna be an exciting Friday.
Robert Shabilsky.
It's gonna be the most exciting Friday in the 315 this year.
God, I really want to go to this game, but I got an IM game.
Shows on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
And welcome back inside the SMC studios here at Newhouse in Syracuse. It is Newhouse Afternoon. Time is 3:36. Back here on our Tuesday cast. Joseph Dovey here with Hunter Caproli. We have a really good special guest here to offer his wisdom, his talents, and analysis in lacrosse, men's and women's. We have a really good Friday coming up in SU athletics for men and women's lacrosse. Robert Shabilsky, welcome on to Newhouse Afternoon.
Pumped to be here with Joseph and Hunter, so can't wait to dig into these two exciting matchups on Friday.
Before we dive in, you want to talk about your background and about your lacrosse acumen?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in the game of lacrosse going on, I think, 12 years now. Started playing when I was in middle school, played for a year, wasn't that great, and learned how to string and die lacrosse heads, and very quickly just fell in love with the game and got to work with a bunch of the top pro players in the world and a lot of the top college players, and just trying to dive more headfirst into the media world of lacrosse and cover the game that I love. So really excited to be here.
And you also have a little bit of a side hustle too in lacrosse. Can you explain what you do with that in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I string and die custom lacrosse sticks for players all over the country and all over the world on Instagram at Wizard String. So I started doing that when I was about 14 years old, and it's a huge passion of mine. Got to spend the last 2 years at Stony Brook University as our student lacrosse director of operations, and just going to be more excited to now be up here in Syracuse and get to be in the Dome, one of the greatest venues in college lacrosse. So really excited.
And covering one of the premier programs in the history of lacrosse. And let's dive into number 2, Syracuse men's lacrosse. What a dynamic start it's been this year. We saw this team squeak one by, not really squeak one by, but have a really good third quarter against the Boston Terriers. But this past Saturday, taking care of business against a team they should be in St. Joseph's with a 20-point performance.
Yeah, I mean, if you spoke to people in January coming into this season, I think a lot of people were surprised that Syracuse wasn't a preseason ranked number 1. I think it's clear to a lot that Maryland is the top program in the country. I think Syracuse will have a lot to say about that on Friday. But that first game against BU, I was surprised. I thought that might have been a 16, 17, 18 goal game for the Orange. They came out a little slow to start, but once the Orange started to get things clicking offensively, that D end led by Billy Dwan and Riley Figueres really held things down. And Johnny Mullins, the faceoff specialist against BU, had an unbelievable day at the X, and those pieces are going to be huge for the Orange to continue having success throughout the year, and especially if they want to get to Charlottesville and cut down the nets on Memorial Day.
Going off that, Rob, you mentioned Johnny Mullins. I saw he was named ACC Men's Lacrosse Defensive Player of the Week. Can you just talk a little bit about this team's defensive tenacity? Obviously, people are always going to look at offense, goals scored, but what does this team to continue to do defensively to potentially pull off a win against number 1 Maryland?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say that defense wins championships. I would argue in the game of lacrosse that returning offense talent wins championships. And the Orange has a lot of that. But on the defensive end, led by seniors Billy Dwan, Riley Figueres, they got the reigning ACC goalie of the year in Jimmy McCool. Really unbelievable start to the year for them. Yeah. Jimmy McCool has looked unbelievable. A big question that Professor Brent Dax has talked a lot about is what is this short stick D midi room look like with the graduation of Carter Rice? He graduated and got drafted by the Redwoods in the PLL, and so far the Ohio State transfer Dante Bones looked the part, and junior Jake Spallina has looked pretty impressive to start the year.
I mean, Spallina with 9 points and 4 goals and 5 assists this past Saturday against St. Joseph's. Finn Thompson also had 4 goals and an assist. The depth of this team is what catches my eye for sure. Do you think that Spallina has to have a great game when you preview this game against a number 1 team in Maryland coming to the Dome?
I think a lot of people will want to say for Syracuse to win this game, they're going to want to see Joey go off for 4-4 like he did against Princeton in the quarterfinals in Hempstead last May. I would actually argue I think Syracuse has a better shot coming away with the win. If they game plan without Spallina in mind, I'd really like to see the depth of the midfield shine through here. I think Will Schaller, the defender on Maryland, has done such an unbelievable job over the past couple years shutting down Joey Spallina. He held Joey to just 1 assist in that semifinal game at Gillette, and that assist came in garbage time. The Terps already had the win put away. They were ready to play Cornell on Monday. You can't bank on Joey having an unbelievable game on Friday for them to win. It's really going to have to come from all those other pieces around him.
So many great storylines coming up for this game, as this was the team that bounced Syracuse, trying to get back to that level of winning the NCAA title like they were in 2009. It's been a long time since Syracuse called themselves NCAA champions. Is there an underrated player, in your opinion? You mentioned a few for the Terps that we should watch. Was there an underrated player you were looking forward to for Syracuse to possibly look out for and try to halt?
It really starts with the attack for Maryland. Eric Spanos returns. He's wearing the number 1 this year. He's a big body. He's listed at 6'5". He had a quiet 2-1 against Loyola on Saturday, but he's really the focal point of that Terrapins offense, and you can't forget about the transfers from Yale, Chris Lyons and Leo Johnson. They combined for 10 points in their season opener against Loyola. I would expect those guys to have another big game, and especially Brandon Erksa. He had 4 assists against Loyola as well.
Do we have a prediction from you for Friday?
I think Syracuse wins this game if they can just prevent from beating themselves. They have to limit mistakes. Johnny Mullins is going to have a great day at the X. Maryland got one of the biggest transfers in the transfer portal. John Tillman has done an unbelievable job going into the portal and getting impact guys that can help his squad, like Leo Johnson, like Chris Lyons. Also bring in Mikey Alexander, a defender. One of the most underrated pieces, though, in that Maryland transfer class is Henry Dodge, the faceoff man from Vermont. Last year against Syracuse, he went 12 for 18. Someone that Johnny Mullins has had some trouble with in the past, and Maryland has a 1-2 punch at the faceoff X. Syracuse is going to need the ball to score.
All right.
So 6 p.m. Start of the game on this Friday, number 1 versus number 2. Cannot wait for that at the JMA Wireless Dome. But that's not the only number 1 team coming to the Dome, because a few hours prior to that, it'll be women's lacrosse going against a really solid UNC team on Friday at 2:30. The reigning national champions in women's lacrosse in the NCAA. They have a gauntlet, this SU women's team, coached by Reggie Thorpe. To start the season, after this game, they'll face number 5 Stanford and number 18 Loyola. But, this is a really tough matchup for this team that just had an opening season loss against Maryland.
It's tough, right? They graduated Emma Ward last year as one of their star attackers. It's a big question right now. Where is that offense going to come from? It starts with the attackers, Molly Guzik and Caroline Trinkus. Caroline Trinkus had 2 goals on Friday night against Maryland. Going to need more of that for them to have a chance of beating UNC, right? UNC is the number 1 team in the country. They're coming off a perfect 18-0 year. They're headlined by Chloe Humphrey, the reigning Tewaaraton Award winner and the preseason player of the year, preseason attacker of the year. UNC has so much talent across the board, but so does Syracuse. And for Syracuse, the offense, it really has to be an everybody eats mentality. Everybody's going to have to get involved for them to have success. Like I said, Molly Gudzik, Caroline Trinkus on attack. Emma Muchnick, she was a little quiet on Friday. I expect for her to have a big bounce-back game. And Coco Vandiver, she's going to have to be solid on that DN that has a lot of young players on there if they want to stop that UNC offense.
Muchnick and Vandiver were the 2 players named on every single preseason watch list going into this year. What did they have to do either in the midfield or defensively to potentially pull off one of the biggest upsets of the season?
I mean, defensively, right? It's just communicating those slide packages, making sure everyone's in the right spots. I think, UNC, they have so much star power, right? With Chloe Humphrey, Darcy Felter had 5 goals against their season opener against James Madison. It's really just staying posed and, trusting their goalie and just being cool, calm, and collected, right? Offensively, you just got to share the ball. I felt at times on Friday the ball was getting stuck in a couple people sticks. A lot of the girls were, dodging, sweeping across the top, and dodging to score for themselves. When in reality, we want to dodge, draw a slide, and dump it to the open person. So I think if Syracuse can get back to that, I think Reggie Thorpe and his squad can have a lot of success on Friday.
Going off that, is there any way the Orange can potentially limit Chloe Humphrey? I know she was one of the best freshmen last year, had one of the best freshman seasons.
You got to see it up close and
saw it up
yourself.
close, boots on the ground in Chapel Hill. Had one of the best seasons in women's lacrosse history. Is there any shot that they could at least limit Humphrey's offensive production?
I think there's definitely a possibility for them to slow her down, but similar to Joey Spallina for the Syracuse men's side, right? You can force her to score, but if she's not going to dodge the score, she's just going to feed the ball to all the other talented players on her team. So, she had 3 and 4 against James Madison the season opener. She's going to get the spotlight and get a lot of the attention from the Syracuse defense, but there's so many other talented players on that team. And the UNC defense is legit. Sam Forrest was named the preseason defender of the year. She was named as a member of the upcoming World Games team in Tokyo this summer. Her and Chloe Humphrey, 3 active players named to that team.
I know Coach Levy's daughter is on the team as well, and she's not too bad either.
No, they have a abundance of talent down in Chapel Hill, and they're definitely going to come up to the Dome and try to get another win on Friday.
Yeah. Well, Johnny Levy, the Lacrosse Hall of Famer, coming to the Dome for a 2:30 start against the Syracuse Orange. Let's see what they can do against the number 1 team in the country. It's going to be a really exciting Friday. 2 number 1 teams coming to the Dome in men's and women's lacrosse. Robert Shabilsky, thank you for coming on and talking about a little bit of lacrosse. When we come back, it is 3:47. We'll close the show and have a few lasting comments about men's basketball, maybe some Olympic talk as well. We'll be right back on Newhouse Afternoon.
Still live on Twitch.
That was a ton of fun.
That was great, man. You're awesome. Man, yeah. You
nothing to be nervous
flies about. Yeah, nothing to be nervous about. It flies by when you know what you're talking about. What is the hard end again? Is it 3:55:30?
I think it's around there.
I think it's 3:55, right? When is the 55:20? Okay. All right, thank you.
We had someone comment, "Hi, Robert."
Here's your drink, Rob. I think you left it down here. Rob? Rob, is this your drink?
Oh, yes, it is. Sorry, Tommy.
Let's get closer again. Do you want to talk Olympics? I'll briefly
We could touch on it real quick.
Yeah. And then do you want to close the men's basketball or something else?
We could close the basketball.
All right. 3:55:20. 3:55:20.
There's a lot of opportunities for some big wins for the Orange. You have Cal on Wednesday, SMU on Saturday, another potential tournament team. Both quad one opportunities. And they travel to Duke. We'll be playing in Cameron. That's a God. And then they play Carolina again at home. That's a stretch.
Thursday in Pittsburgh.
I mean, you add in the fact that their previous two games were against Carolina and Virginia. I can't imagine there's many teams in the ACC that have had as tough a stretch as this 6-game stretch. UNC, Virginia, Cal, SMU, Duke, UNC. It's not going to get much tougher than that. That's 6 teams that are going to be in the tournament this year.
Mm-hmm.
6 quad one games. 6 games where you won't be favored going into it, and each game is going to be a war to try to win.
Mm-hmm. Cal tomorrow. What time is Cal?
The Cal game is at 7 p.m.
7 p.m. tomorrow at the Dome.
They will then be playing SMU on Saturday at 2 o'clock at the Dome. Boopy Miller will be coming in. He's good.
Valentine's Day against SMU.
Between Day Ames and Boopy Miller, there's going to be some scores coming into the Wireless Dome. Maybe the cold can slow them down, but I think Coach Autry and the rest of the staff is going to have to formulate some defensive strategies to try to at least limit their top scorer's offensive production. Nothing to lose, though, like we mentioned last week.
Play free.
Who knows what Coach Autry's future holds.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a month of the season left before the ACC tournament starts. Why not maybe pull off a string of upsets?
Sure.
Who says you can't?
Yep.
At home, anything's possible, I feel like.
Yeah. This is a loyal crowd. Like I was saying last week, man, I'm always just admiring this Syracuse crowd and how even when it's not been exactly, a great season for them, 5th straight year missing the NCAA tourney. I mean, these fans have continued to show up. Now, is it the attendance it would be if this team was top 10? Of course not. Right. Nobody's going to show up for the same way in that kind of stadium like they did in the old Big East days during the final days of Boeheim when they were really solid, making a Final Four run in their in the late 2010s, as if they were still a great team like that. But it's been really solid attendance that some programs would die for, really.
I think so.
So props to the SU fan base for showing up like they have for men's basketball this year, even with all the anger and frustration
for sure
surrounding Coach Autry and the program and not being at the same level they used to.
I mean, when it's been so long since you've made the tournament, people are always going to get frustrated. I'm excited to see how this last month unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow's Broadcasting Stars Today, broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Closing time here at the SMC Studios, Newhouse Afternoon. Joseph Duffy with Hunter Caparelli. Let's talk briefly about this Winter Olympics that started in Milan over the weekend. They're off and running. I thought it was pretty cool, by the way, Mike Tirico transitioned from calling play-by-play, SU alum Mike Tirico, of course, play-by-play of the Super Bowl, to hosting, the on-air show for the Olympics afterwards.
I thought that was super awesome. You don't normally see a sporting event like the Olympics follow as big of a sporting event as the Super Bowl. So the fact that the voice, essentially, of NBC Sports, Mike Tirico, was able to call the Super Bowl play-by-play and then go on the field and transition it right into the Olympics that night, I thought was super cool.
NBC is cleaning up as of late with, how they're going to own Sunday night. So, of course, they have Sunday Night Football, which they've had really since about 04-05, I believe. Of course, they have Sunday Night Baseball that's coming with ESPN's contract that's run out. And don't know who's calling play-by-play for that just yet. Don't want to speculate on that, but they're going to have Sunday Night Baseball as well. Excited for that. And they also have Sunday Night Basketball as it stands right now. They'll have the All-Star game with, I believe, Noah Eagle, also a Newhouse alum, on the call.
Love Noah.
They're taking over.
I saw they had Caitlin Clark as one of their contributors on the Sunday Night Basketball show a few nights ago. So, yeah, they've been raking every single sporting event they've done, and I'm excited to see how the rest of the Olympics unfold.
Before we close, SU men's basketball plays Cal tomorrow. Day-Day Ames coming in with 17 points a game for the Golden Bears to face the Syracuse Orange at the Dome, and then men's basketball face off against SMU at 2 p.m. on the CW on Valentine's Day this Saturday.
This might be, we were talking a little bit about it during the break, this might be one of the toughest stretches for not just Syracuse men's basketball, but potentially any team in the ACC. The last two games, Syracuse has played North Carolina and Virginia. You then add on the fact that their next 4 games include home dates against California and SMU, and then they go on the road to Duke in Durham, in Cameron Indoor, and then return to play North Carolina once again. That's 6 teams that will all potentially be in the NCAA tournament. It's a really tough stretch, but like we've mentioned a bunch of times, there's nothing to lose for this Syracuse men's basketball squad. Play freely. Obviously, no one knows right now what the future holds for Coach Adrian Autry, but there's no reason not to play freely. And who knows, maybe you could shock the world and pull off a couple upsets.
We'll see what they can do tomorrow at the Dome against Cal at 7 p.m. And then also Syracuse women's basketball trying to rebound against Pitt in Pittsburgh at 6 p.m. on Thursday. That'll do it for Newhouse Afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our Tuesday show. For Hunter Caparelli, I'm Joseph Duffy. We'll see you tomorrow on Newhouse Afternoon, but also next week, next Tuesday.
Did you miss Drive Time with Tim Leonard? Well,